And we're back with some more illogic. Last time we faced off against John in the Close Combat Club in Week 2 of the Wooper Club League Season 10 Low Tier Draft. Please go check out that video first if you have not done so already, as we went over the team builder and battle before going through a lengthy retrospective because, spoiler alert, the Bouffalant fell yet again in Week 2 to the Close Combat Club, this time 2-0 due to some trick room shenanigans from our opponent to bring our record to 1-1 with a +3 differential. This time we've got what should hopefully be a get-right game against Stevie and his Baltimore Oricorios. Timestamps will be in the description. I didn't know much of anything about Stevie, and he was my first assigned partner in last season's multi-battle league, and I was quite nervous about how well he would keep up. Frankly, my fears were baseless, as we not only worked together well to grab the Week 1 W, but he later teamed up with Elf-Elves and Steve Chuck to hand me 2 losses as well later, finishing as the number 7 seed and making the playoffs before going down in the semifinals. Definitely the biggest, most pleasant surprise of the last couple of seasons. Stevie has admittedly been struggling at the beginning of his first regular draft season, so we'll see if we can take advantage of the situation to get our first W against his Oricorios. It's an odd team. After the speedy Talonflame at the top, the team's speed drops off immediately to Uxie and Haunter, then again to Absol, Poliwrath, Magneton, Mawile, Rhyperior, Appleton, Corsola-Galar, and Dottler. Again, real weird, but some real good mons sprinkled throughout the team too. A few key weaknesses for us to exploit in a couple months that I don't actually have the greatest of answers to. Of everything here, though, Dottler is something I can answer pretty easily. Sticky Webs is the name of the game for it, which just aren't good against me, and otherwise, it's bulky. That's really about it, so I'm pretty hopeful I can break through it with my myriad of knockoff users and plenty of other super effective moves that can nail it. Appleton also has several key answers to it on my squad, whether it's a tanky set or something meant to break. Multiple ice types and plenty of coverage, U-turn, dual wing beat, sludge wave, ice fang, just a lot of raw bulk and power should hopefully overcome the lack of resist we've got for its dual stabs. I don't think the rest of the team is clear cut, so from here I'll just kind of go through what I think would be least scary to most scary for the particular team I'm bringing. Uxie is a really cool mod that I seriously considered myself at 100 points. Very bulky, very reliable rock setter, plus a great pivot and surprising utility. Here, however, it really struggles to do too much against my overall superior pivoting and resists and knockoff spam and stalling tactics. It could come and it could be annoying. It is a tier 100 mod, but I'm not that terribly afraid of it. Corsola-Galar is another mod that could stall out most teams, but I have a bona fide counter to it that I'm excited to show off a little bit, not to mention everything else I talked about with beating Uxie applying as well to Corsola. The difference is Corsola has a bit of recovery instead of U-turn, but I can handle both pretty well. Finally, Mawile has a lot of really good, neat qualities to it that are countered by just a low stat total. Offensive move pool is great, low base attack and speed. Great defensive typing, plus Intimidate, but low HP and defenses. My base stats on my team are so good they should be able to break through Mawile with relative ease, including a couple of mons in particular that I will be bringing. So if I had to pick a 6 I'm most worried about, it would be an overall offensive squad, as evidenced by the ones I chose him to leave behind. Haunter, for example, has really bad poison stab in the matchup. But if he catches me off guard or in against something low, it will find at least 1 KO in the matchup with Shadow Ball and great coverage moves. It is fragile, but a great speed stat and move pool makes me worried enough about the holes it pokes in the team for others. Talonflame was Stevie's first round pick and is versatile enough to put in the work too. It's his only defogger, and strong fire and flying moves are very tough to find resists for, backed up by a blazing speed that only Aerodactyl reaches. Rock isn't even a good type to bring his coverage against his team, with this being the only weakness, and neither are multiple other types like Electric and Water, so Talonflame actually has a really good protection overall. Absol is sort of just a better Haunter in the matchup, hitting from the physical side with priority Sucker Punch and a strong knockoff, with great coverage like Close Combat to nuke basically my whole squad if I let it set up even a little bit. The speed stat is deceptively high too, outspeeding a little too much to my team, and Sucker Punch cleaning up some of the more frail, speedy team members. Magneton can trap multiple steel types from my team, or just be super tough to break through between Eviolite and Sturdy, providing great pivoting with Volt Twitch or strong electric coverage, which has been shown to be quite effective against me thus far. Rhyperior is something I've lost to on the channel, and without a grass type to hit it with stab, I'm a little more limited. In a mostly physical format too, Rhyperior looks so good, and after our Swords Dance or Rock Polish, it will break the biggest holes in my team. Finally, Poliwrath seems like a weird mon to be afraid of. We handled it quite easily in Season 8, and it isn't like he has the best range setters aside from itself, but Swift Swim could still come. Another Water Absorb as well. It makes a great middle ground switch against water coverage, which is a plenty on the team. Fighting and water are just amazing coverage for him together, especially against what I'm looking to bring. So Poliwrath actually has the potential to get out of hand, strangely enough, if I'm not prepared. On my side, I have the opportunity to bring a few new mons, but not Marowak, who cannot even nail his big tanks very hard, between Levitate Uxie, Grass type on Appleton, Eviolite, Will-O-Wisp, Corsola-Galar, not to mention Haunter and Talonflame being immune to ground 2 and the possibility for other tricks. Frostlass also cannot come with lots of his strong offense being super effective against the Ghost type. Even with Ghost being a mostly freely attacking type 2 as well, Frostlass just does not have enough firepower to break through while being unable to beat his only defogger by merit of its fire typing. I debated these last few slots quite a bit as usual, but ultimately had to leave behind the Guzzlord again. Guzzy will have a chance later to be the star, but not quite yet, as I really did not want the fighting weaknesses to stack up, especially the slow ones, and it doesn't quite have the coverage I was looking for against the mons I needed it for, even with all his dark weaknesses. Next, I waffled between 3 picks for this slot for quite a while, but decided I didn't want to bring Clawitzer. Yeah, it absolutely destroys Rhyperior with Water Pulse, and is one of my better options in hitting hard to break through his team, but that slow speed really gets me. Underspeeding Magneton, Absol, and Poliwrath is not great when all of them could be potential Scarfers that need a stopper. It would have been cool to bring Clawitzer to every game as it is currently tied with Entei for League KO leader, but we need to give other team members chances to shine too. Finally, between my two 80 speed Pokemons, Passimian will be the one riding the bench for the first time this season. I felt my team was a little physical heavy already, and as nice as a Dark Resist for Absol would be, I felt the possible special attacking and fighting resist of a different Mon just made a little more sense to me. The team is pretty straightforward, so I don't mind just running through this. Aerodactyl is Jolly to outspeed Talonflame and Scarf 70s, which, funnily enough, thanks to math, not only requires full speed investment, but outspeeds them at level 100, but not at 50. That's kind of a strange little quirk there. Stonehenge is my strongest move that destroys Talonflame and still hits things like Uxie hard. Dual Wing Beat for things like Poliwrath and Appleton, and Earthquake for things like Magneton, and at least a bit of chip onto Rhyperior. Life Orb gives that extra oomph, and against things like Uxie or Talonflame, I may even be able to find time to roost up, mitigating both Life Orb recoil and Stealth Rock damage if I get the chance. The damage is high, the speed is high, and we have longevity too, so what a good Mon that I can just bring every week and reliably know what it does. Tentacruel is next with an actual chance to destroy something with Liquid Ooze, bringing this in particular for the 3rd week in a row. I'm looking squarely at Corsola-Galar, whose Strength Sap really is its greatest recovery asset. Knock would have been nice to fit in, but otherwise Toxic Protect is great for stalling this, as well as something like the Poliwrath in a pinch that my full physical defensive investment should help me to wall, with Scald providing consistent damage, especially on Rhyperior, and Rapid Spin of course to help the couple of rock weaknesses that we've got. We'll talk about that potentially a little bit later, but I was definitely looking at Knock of course, but also Giga Drain potentially for Rhyperior and Poliwrath, but ultimately decided these 4 kind of covered everything that I wanted. Next up is probably my favorite Wincon in Iron Defense, Steelix, already fully physically bulky with Body Press to destroy everything. After 2 Iron Defenses, Body Press is KOing literally everything it hits neutrally, while tanking with every single physical attack that comes my way. Heavy Slam is my move of choice in case I need to hit something else, particularly Haunter, but also things like Uxie without triggering potential weakness policies. And Rest can help me shake off Burn or keep me healthy after tanking, say, a Shadow Ball and KOing it. Pretty simple and straightforward, but wow, is this set strong. Body Press coming off of that stat, even without Stab, is ridiculous. Mesprit is going to be next, and this week we've got a Choice Scarf. That's what I love about Mesprit. Toxic utility followed by Screens followed by Scarf. What a versatile Mon. We outspeed Scarf Absol with the spread, and though of course Sucker Punch KOs anyways, but why not? With Psychic and Energy Ball is the main coverage moves for Poliwrath and Rhyperior in particular. Can you tell what I'm afraid of? U-turn is easy and obvious for switches or anything else, with Trick is a neat option to ruin things like Corsola or Uxie in a pinch. Another straightforward Mon, so let's get to the 2 debuts. Rotom-Frost is another obvious Scarf candidate, but here we've got a kind of weird substitute nasty plot set that still employs Volt Switch as well as Blizzard, the power of which I am excited to show off. At +2, Blizzard will OHKO all Rhyperior through Solid Rock, and 2-hit KO Uxie as well, both of which are Mons I very well may be able to set up on. Stonehenge can miss, and I can sub up until it does, and if Uxie isn't packing Psychic coverage, that could be a free substitute as well. Otherwise, I don't mind even boosting up and Volt Switching out, as it will chunk everything that isn't blasted by a Blizzard, aside from Magneton, one of the only Mons in the franchise to resist both stabs. And finally, it's time for Clang Gang. I tried combining a couple ideas here, as all the moves have a use and or are funny. Toxic is the easy pick, as things like Uxie and Corsola and Rhyperior can be worn down by it, combined with the ability to get a slow Volt Switch off on most things like the Magneton that traps me and is immune to Toxic. Gear Grind, on the other hand, is very funny for how much damage it does to his fragile Mons, especially Absol and Haunter. In most cases, I want to shift Gear up first to get some speed, then pick the appropriate move depending on his check. Rest and Sleep Talk were pretty interesting, but I didn't think I'd really find time to click them compared to what else I've got, and while Magnet Rise is very interesting, I've got quite a bit already for Rhyperior here, and banking that much on one matchup for a Mon like Clang really isn't feasible. So, that's the team. Let's see what he's bringing. So, Uxie and Corsola-Galar over Haunter and Absol. Frankly, this is pretty ideal. With a couple of toxic Mons, you know I can win the long game, even if it does lessen the value of both of my Steel types with being able to knock out the Dark and Ghost types. Before starting the match, I did take a quick look at both of Stevie's other matches. In both of them, he led off with a Stealth Rockmon, Rhyperior, and then Uxie, and then set up Rocks turn 1. I actually don't have hazards this time, as I sort of anticipated Talonflame to be packing Boots, and Toxic was a little more reliable to chip what I needed anyways. So how do I counter one of the 3 possible leads? Let's see. Good luck to Stevie. He does, in fact, lead the Uxie, which I know will be rocking turn 1. So I've got a chance to click the Nasty Plot button turn 1, which is kind of funny. So I'm going to do it and see what happens. If I outspeed, that's a turn 2 sub to another Nasty Plot or a Blizzard. He actually does outspeed, which implies some investment for sure, but we do get to Nasty Plot up in front of Rocks. I want to not only set up, but also have a Rocks Weakmon out when Rocks went up to prevent that little bit of damage if it were to switch in, while also being able to threaten more than be threatened by all of Corsola, Rhyperior, and Uxie. And boy, does Nasty Plot accomplish that. It's time to fire off the fattest of Blizzards. Yawn is, of course, expected. One big reason I didn't go for sub, and Blizzard misses. Well, 70%, there's a reason for Rotom-Frost is down here, right? That's fine. He's going to actually Yawn again, expecting a switch out probably, so we can take advantage of the weird Nasty Plot Volt Switch synergy to get out of here without falling asleep, and still chipping Uxie for almost half its health. Probably a max HP, max speed set if I had to guess. And now, it's time. Clanging! I have no problem shift gearing up, but with what I anticipate to come out in Rhyperior, or maybe him just staying in and yawning again, Toxic seems to be the easy play. He does U-turn out, no big surprise of course, into Talonflame. I will definitely take that Toxic to the bank and miss. Well, 90%, what do you expect? 3% chance of both of those missing, but luckily with how we've played, we're not actually too far behind, just Rocks exchanged for half of Uxie. That we've got a pretty nice play here, being able to tank a fire move pretty well no matter what, and just Volt switching out. Or a hard Rhyperior. Oh, well, that's probably fine. Well, you see the issue with Rhyperior is that while I have a lot of answers to it, Mesprit Energy Ball, Tentacruel Scald, Rotom-Frost Blizzard if it hits, Steelix's Body Press, I don't exactly have anything at all to switch into it. Knowing how Stevie has played this before, Swords Dance seems likely. I would love to switch out, but what tanks a +2 hit? Heck, what OHKOs from full? I need to get Chip, and frankly, even though I just missed with it, Toxic is probably going to be the best way to ensure it gets in range of something else. It's actually more accurate than Gear Grind, too. We actually do land, and yep, that sure is a Swords Dance. So here's the other tough part. I've seen my opponent make some plays in the past that were questionable, and EQ sure seems to be coming here. Would I really risk my Mesprit or my Aerodactyl or my Rotom on that? On a risky play like that to save my Clang? I really wanted Clang to do more than this, but with his Fragile Mons not here that it could actually do something against, I'm sorry, little one. Gear Grind actually connects too. It does about 30% actually before going down to Earthquake, which a crit. Oh geez. Well, if he was adamant that that's not a roll, but if it isn't, that certainly was. Rustwell, Metal Gear, Mesprit is going to be here to save the day. Rhyperior should no longer have a chance to do anything if he switches out, because it would need to set back up to really do much of anything. So ultimately, I will just take the Clang for Rhyperior trade while giving Mesprit a KO with the Scarf. That is going to be 5-5 with his Rocks up on Uxie at 50%. Corsola, that makes a good amount of sense as answer, honestly. That's his bulkiest mon left. Easy switch into Tentacruel. Take the Rocks damage as Whirlpool. Misses. Well, there's some better luck, and that's a pretty annoying move. Let's Toxic this boy right now. Yes, sir. Toxic doesn't miss on poison types, and that's another tank that isn't going to make it today. Will-O-Wisp Chip is going to be annoying, but not unexpected, and especially because we do still have the Black Sludge. I want him to Strength Sap me. It would be super funny. I also don't want him to unexpectedly trap and burn something else, so I guess I have to return to get some more Toxic damage off. Because of course we want to get as much chip on this as possible, so maybe we can finish off with something else if needed. And we'll just end up scalding him, or a little bit of damage. Actually 17% really isn't bad. Cursed Body, 30%, I'll remember that, as I am now indeed trapped and taking even more chip damage than before. That's a little annoying, but it's pretty much inevitable that he's going to have to Strength Sap sooner rather than later. Protect would get some more chip onto him rather than me, but just in case he switches out, we'll try and Toxic something else. Well, I guess if he goes for Magneton, I ain't poisoning that. Man, imagine if I just Rapid Spin. That was more guaranteed to get something done on a switch and wouldn't have done anything just like Toxic. No problem though, we are going to have an answer to it, of course, as we are freed from Whirlpool because it's swapped out. We've got our ground type, and yeah, electric moves, they're not doing anything to us. I don't mind setting up while Corsola is still up because Tentacruel is still up too, so we're going to adjust Iron Defense on another electric move. While I may have been trapped, yeah, misplay, but no biggie, right? Just switch out this turn into the Mon whose dual stabs threaten me, right? A body press, boom, 97%. This was actually rolled a KO, though it wasn't in my favor, so he will be getting an attack off. I pondered for a moment, wondered if he may be running special coverage on Poliwrath like Surf or something, but of course last time he brought the Wrath, it was banded. A couple players in the league don't seem to like changing sets week to week, so we assume that's what it is, and a calc does show that was a banded liquidation that did 25%. That's it. That's still pitiful damage in the face of this monster, as Body Press is going to claim another KO this season. We're up 5-4. We're starting to sit a little more pretty. Corsola will, of course, make sense. Yeah, so into Tentacruel we go. Water Poison types do seem to be the natural enemies of Corsolas, as Willow does absolutely nothing. We're, of course, going to Scald again to see if we can get him to activate our Liquid Ooze with Strength Step. He's going to need to do another Cursed Body. That's the 4th consecutive Cursed Body activation in our matches. 3 in a row against me, extending back to last game. 30%, huh? Well, one more Scald would have finished him off here. But as I don't feel like tanking any more Nightshades, I'm just going to, I guess, protect to get the Toxic KO if he doesn't switch out. So, of course, oh, now he Strength Steps. Man, we were this close to getting Liquid Ooze KO. Well, blame Cursed Body if anything, I suppose, or my Cautious Blade, not wanting to take the extra Nightshade damage, or him underestimating how much Scald and Toxic would do. In any case, it is now 5-3, and Magneton again makes some good sense as the revenge answer. Once again, Steelix will be the answer to this, as, oh yeah, I guess he does actually have a special attack stat that hits, huh? Magneton is a little stronger than you think, too. My first team iteration actually used Magneton to eliminate Steels for Dragalge, so I really wish I could have had the opportunity to use something like Magneton as well. This thing hits. It's possible this is actually a sturdy Magneton, not Magnapole, and that one body press doesn't KO him. If that's the case, it would be nice to be able to rest up or get another Iron Defense, but I need to avoid the Spidef drop that is probably coming considering how the match has gone, so I'm going to go ahead and body press immediately. Flash Cannon does a lot again, no Spidef drop, and yep, sure does bring him down to sturdy, just as it did in his previous match. That's what match scouting can do for you if you don't change up your team at all. Well, I can tank another Flash Cannon now. Barely, but that's alright. It's the magic of leftovers. There's the Spidef drop. And we're now going to finish off the Magneton. Steel is actually not the easiest type for this team to switch into, so down goes Magneton at the cost of most of my Steelix. And we're now up 5-2. The answer for him is going to be Uxie, and I wonder if there's a chance that I could survive this, but Psychic can still KO, so Mesprit is going to be the answer to help me seal the game. And funnily enough, it is actually Psyshock, which I actually survived with the Steelix that does less than Leftovers recovers because of my full physical defense, and the worst it could have done was Yawn, which I could get a rest off on anyways. Man, well, the funniest win condition here now is going to be tricking the Scarf onto Uxie, and will do so as he locks into Yawn. One last bit of funny little hacks as you turn into the Talonflame gets the burn, and all 3 times I contacted his mons with the ability to activate on contact, they sure did activate. I'll remember that. Well, Arrow is the only thing that outspeeds, is if we can hit a Stone Edge, which we do, Talonflame will be dealt with. That's an improvement, hitting a Stone Edge. That's kind of unusual. That's pretty good luck, right? Considering it seems to miss more often than it hits. That's fine. Uxie is the last one left, and is going to lock, of course, into Psyshock as his last and only damaging move, though I know I survive even a crit, so I get one more shot at damage and another Stone Edge hit, which is a great sign for the future. Mesprit is, of course, the safest answer left, so we're going to go into it, and even with how tanky it is, and even with us burned, U-turn from Mesprit will be enough to pick up the final KO in the 5-0 victory to put us back in the winner's circle. GG to Stevie and the Oricorios. You've really got some cool mons in the team that I'd really like to see maybe used in different ways to throw people off. Pretty much everything on my team functioned as I wanted it to, despite the Blizzard and Toxic misses early. Even Clang brought Rhyperior in range of revenge, and Rotom got huge Uxie chip off that could have been a KO had it been wearing glasses. Tentacruel was a great Corsola check, though honestly anything could have taken it on considering how long it took for him to Strength Step. Arrow was great again, picking up the Talonflame KO and getting another big old chunk onto Uxie. And Mesprit was definitely valuable in picking off Rhyperior and getting that Scarf onto a tank at the end of the game. Steelix probably has to get MVP honors again, doing a full 1/3 of my opponent's HP pool with Body Press, taking out the Poliwrath and Magneton from full, while tanking those hits which pregame were identified as 2 of his biggest threats that he could possibly bring. It was a straightforward match, but sorely needed nonetheless. I I do wonder from games like this if my playstyle becomes too easy and predictable to read, and then I remember that our Week 4 opponents, Steve Chuck and the Waterdeep Wobbuffets, have been getting the better of me recently. But then I recall all those titles we've got, and that despite feeling washed up, we are back to 2-1 with a +8 differential. The tough part of the schedule is here though, and it's time to take a serious look at the team, our opponents, and maybe even our style of play and prep as we try to snap the losing streak against the Wobbuffets. See ya!